This is a podcast from the Bugle.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, a giant wall of text hurtled through space. It destroyed countless spaceships, space stations, moons, and even planets. Trillions died. The galaxy's greatest minds came together to end the horror, but their giant eraser did nothing. Their giant whiteout was even less successful. When the giant delete key failed, the galaxy's greatest generals took over, but no army or strategy was enough. Finally, the galaxy tried reasoning with the wall of text. As usual, reason didn't work. The galaxy was destroyed and the wall of text kept drifting. Now it's the present, in this galaxy, and the wall of text is heading straight for us. It says, long, long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, the Gargle! Welcome to the Gargle, the sonic, glossy magazine to the Bugle's audio newspaper for a visual world, all of the news, none of the politics. I am your host, Alice Fraser, and your guest editors for this week's edition of the magazine are Ria Lina, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's a delight to have you back, and Helen Zaltzman.
Hello. How exciting to be flying through space with you all.
Well, before we strap in and launch into the never-ending galaxy that is this week's top stories, let's have a look at the front cover of this week's magazine. The front cover of this week's magazine is Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. We didn't book them, but they just showed up on our front cover because someone told them they have friendship chemistry and now they're f***ing everywhere.
So true.
I was going to ask you if you've been following them, but they follow you.
They do. You know what? I am quite enjoying the slight bit of shade that Blake Lively is bringing to the whole picture with the slightly negative promo on her movie.
Stunning. What a twist. You know, finally the Marvel multiverse serves me something that I'm amused by.
And the satirical cartoon this week is a speech bubble over a New Yorker-style cartoon saying, here's an interesting social norm, and it's just a guy called Norman in a beret who, alone among his peers, doesn't have social anxiety and just wants a pleasant chit-chat in passing. And that brings us to our top story today. Top story today is the news that a man has bought a spherical egg. Ria, you're a scientist. What is this egg shock news? I mean, there are plenty of eggs that are spherical. This is a chicken egg, which is not usually spherical, correct?
Actually, I don't know many eggs.
Oh,
yeah, no, there are
eggs.
a few. There are a few spherical eggs. Yes, you're right. Like turtles. But I was thinking avian. Going, interesting. But it is unusual for a chicken to pop out a perfectly spherical egg. And I believe it's to do with like the pressure of it coming out, and also the strength of the ovoid shape. It's a very strong shape. But to me, the surprising thing was that he was willing to spend £150 on it and then didn't seem to be stressed at all while waiting for it to be shipped. I would have been very stressed until it arrived in one piece.
He also doesn't seem to have done any real research into how to preserve this £150 egg. He said he feels like he's got his money's worth. But yeah, he doesn't. It's just going to go off. He said, I believe there's a thing called egg blowing.
He's right to believe. He's a man of faith. But maybe it was all about the journey, not the destination for him with this egg. And also, a spherical egg sold in 2015 for £480. So £150 is a relative bargain.
It's a bargain. That's interesting. It's nice to know that men will also get drunk and do late night shopping. Because that tends to be a very female thing to do. So I'm glad there was evidence of someone else doing it as well. But actually, I painted an egg in high school, and for whatever reason we decided to keep it, and it does go off and it stinks, but eventually it dries out, and now that egg just has a tiny little kernel on the inside of it, but it's absolutely fine. So he just needs to store it away in a cupboard for a couple of years, and then he can bring it out whenever he wants and goes, look, it's an egg. And they'll go, it's a golf ball. And they'll go, no, it's an egg. They'll be like, you shaved a golf ball. And he can have that conversation for the rest of his days.
So you're saying persevere. You don't blow the egg. You just
No, I don't think he should, because he will mess it up. It also won't be perfectly spherical if you put even one tiny little hole in it, will it?
He could practice on a boring egg.
You just wait it out. I mean, there's no guarantee that this egg hasn't been fertilized and he won't get a tiny, perfectly spherical chicken out of it.
Oh my gosh.
Although owls and budgies lay spherical eggs, and they
do.
They don't have fully spherical young.
I don't know. Have you seen a baby owl? They're pretty spherical.
I was reading about a a type of egg that hens sometimes lay that is called fairy eggs or fart eggs, which are often much rounder and contain only albumin. And it's either that their fertility is amping up or amping down in their laying life, or it's just a fluke and a shell grew before a yolk formed. And they also used to be called cock eggs because they thought those were the eggs that the male chickens laid.
Right, because it looked very similar to male secretion.
Don't know. Never looked at a chicken's secretion.
I couldn't remember if we were family friendly here, but then you said the word and then obviously...
We're family friendly for a certain value of family is the thing.
Got it. No, that's fine. I loved that you started actually with a whole that kind of Star Wars going through the universe theme, because yesterday...
For copyright reasons, I have no idea what you're talking about.
For copyright reasons, you did none of those things. Well, you just described words flying through space. But yesterday, a German Navy boat came up the Thames playing the Darth Vader theme. And it just floated up. Duh. I can't do it for copyright reasons, but everybody knows what I'm referring to. So just imagine a German Navy boat doing that. But I'm sure between them, not a single spherical egg. So
It's like an ice cream truck gone evil, that.
Selling me a 99p for £1.10.
The lady across the road from me is a medical dermatologist, and I got chatting to her at the cafe today, and she said that, you know, I have pregnancy melasma, which is little markings that you get on your face, and that I could get rid of them with a chemical peel. And I said, what does that entail? And she said it entails 7 days of your face peeling off. And I was like, I have children. They'll eat my face skin. Like, I'm not.
Oh no. But also, you could, alternative, just saying this again as a scientist, science hat on, you could just wait 7 years because your skin renews by then. Just give it by the time they're in primary school, people will be like, what, my asthma?
Your ad section now, because you can't be what you can't buy. And Dancy Lagarde fans, the book, The Dancy Lagarde Reader, now called A Passion for Passion, One Woman's Delirious Love Letter to Romance, has a release date. It is coming out on the 6th of February, which is magnificent because it is just in time for Valentine's Day, and as 80% of all book sales happen at Christmas, there won't be anyone in the bookshop competing for your right to buy. To be honest, I don't actually know if it'll be in bookshops, so you're better off buying it unbound.com. And you can get a signed copy there if you go to unbound.com and type in A Passion for Passion. You've mastered the crane, the frog, the lotus flower. You can fold paper into anything. Now it's time to ditch the paper and try something harder. Fold yourself through space with time travel. Time travel, interdimensional origami. You can run with scissors, but you can't hide with scissors. At Standout Stationery, our scissors are giant, neon pink, and never stop screaming. You'll never wonder where your scissors are again, only why they're screaming. You've done the wrong ratio in your pot to pasta quantity again, and your water is frothing over the edge, heading for the hot plate with the starchy determination of a soldier on the front line charging into a hail of bullets. You can turn the heat down, you can bin your whole kitchen, but why not try ladling out about half a glass of water? Half a glass of water makes all the difference between you and having to scrub your stove. And in 9 months' time, you won't have time to baby-proof your home. Get it done early with express baby-proofing. When the sky turns green and the unstoppable wave of evil babies begins rampaging across the world, you'll be glad your home is baby-proof. Now it's time for brain news, and this is the news that your brain is found to store 3 copies of every memory. Helen Zaltzman, you can remember some things. Can you unpack this story for us?
I can remember very little, but it's it's very sad. I was like, not even 1 copy? That's because this is a study in mice. And I've heard mice are different to people. Tails, for one, being able to shimmy under doors. But perhaps this will be the same as well. So it's 3 different sets of neurons will be activated, and they're like activated at different times in a mouse's neuron development, and they have different sort of durations of the memory. So one might fade, and the other one is like, I'm still here, which is hard if you want to forget the terrible things you did when you were young, as I do. And your middle neurons are like, not today.
Ria, do you think this would translate to humans at all?
Well, they say they use mice because they have the same number of like neuron types as we do, something like 75 in the brain. I mean, the idea that I don't know that we need to know everything that there is to know in science. Like, I'm a huge fan of science. Don't get me wrong. Got a lot of degrees, study it, love it. But sometimes you go, did we need to know that? So a memory is stored in 3 different sets of neurons. In one set, it's really strong and then it fades over time. In another set, it's just kind of always there. And in the third set, it's not very strong and then it gets stronger over time. And I just thought, so how do we know that all 3 memories are the same? How do we know that they've all remembered it the same way? Are you just going to be having an argument in your brain going, no, she was wearing a red dress, and the other memory's going, no, it was a black and gold dress, and the other one's like, no, it was white and green, and everyone's like, it's just the angle of the photograph. Yeah, it sounds fascinating on the surface. You go, okay, we could do something with this. And then in the end you go, does this mean that I'm only remembering a third of my life because I'm using 3 times as much brain power to remember one thing? And why is it always that one memory that is of no use to me?
Yeah, why is it Billie Piper's second single?
Right. And why can't I remember, why can't I remember where I met someone when I meet them again out of context? Why is that never right at the forefront of my brain? But I can remember, my 4th birthday.
What if the mice aren't accurately reporting? What if they're like, yeah, I remember that. And they're like, shit, did we go to a conference together? Is that it?
Ah, yes. Steve? The researchers said that their work could have implications for treating people who have been damaged by a traumatic event, because they say that the work shows how it might be possible to change memories in the brain. I feel like that is not hopeful news to me. That just means that I can no longer trust any of my memories if they can all just change at the drop of a hat.
We've made movies about this. Isn't Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind about erasing traumatic memories? I think it is. Yeah. Well, I mean, I saw it and then erased it. But we've already done movies where we mess around with memory. We already know that eyewitness accounts are very, very unreliable unless we can do like this is becoming Black Mirror. We're really seriously getting into an episode of Black Mirror where we can just go, well, there's 3 different records of this. We're just going to put what do they call it? Things in your brain. We're going to suck out your memories. We're going to see what actually happened. I think it's dangerous.
The more that they find out about this stuff, the more you find out that the memory is incredibly unreliable. So they did all that stuff with retrieving people's childhood memories of terrible events, and they found out that they were verifiably, you could just make anyone remember anything, which is just by telling them or leading them down the path, which is why every night when I put my children to sleep, I go, that was a lovely day, wasn't it?
Mummy was very present and the best, and Daddy was somewhere.
And that brings us to our reviews section. As you know, each week we ask our guest editors to bring in something to review out of 5 stars. Ria, what have you brought in for us this week?
I am bringing to you, and I don't think that 5 stars is enough, the concept of mothers going on holiday by themselves. I think I just did one. I probably did the first one I've ever done in my life, where I went on an actual holiday. Not like, oh, I'm working in this country and my work is 20 minutes a night, so let's call it a holiday. No. I mean where you go and can legitimately turn your phone off, and you know that your children don't need to reach you every second of the day, and you do whatever you want. I had so many naps in the first 3 days of my holiday. People would say I wasted it. I did not. I mean, 7 stars out of 5 stars. I am now, it was so beneficial. I'm now going to do it over Christmas. Might not be, might not be 5 out of 5 stars for the kids, but if you want me healthy and hale and ready for 2025, you're going to let Mummy do this.
I feel like this is the one legitimate use for AI, which is to put together a family video of this Christmas where you weren't there, but insert yourself in post hoc using a deep fake, and then make them question their own memories of the event.
Do you know what, though? I've just been looking through photos and finding photos from different Christmases. If they weren't time-stamped, I wouldn't be able to tell you which one it was. So I'm just gonna say, no, we're not going to look at Christmas photos for 10 years, and then if you can name the year, you can have you can claim the damage. All right, I'll pay for your therapy if you can even identify which year I went on holiday.
Just tell them Christmas is once every 4 years, like the Olympics.
Or leap year.
But that means you have to do this one.
You know what? Let's be honest. Jesus was born once. He came back once. That's 2 total. That's what I'm giving you. Right?
Seems reasonable.
Helen, what have you brought in for us to review this week?
I have brought the concept of having a little mystery at your wedding, because I went to a wedding at the weekend, and you know the little place cards that have your name on to tell you which bit of the table to sit at. So mine had my name on the front, and then everybody's had on the other side the initials L and A and the date September 11th, 2025, which was not the date of the wedding, wasn't the anniversary of the wedding. The people getting married did not have the initials L or A, and it was quite the icebreaker. I find it awkward to have to make conversation with people I don't know, but we were like, what the hell is this? Is it some kind of September 11th thing they're planning next year?
Hollywood's gonna get it.
Yeah, and it probably was whichever of the happy couple ordered the place cards just forgot to erase that part of the template, but kept us going for like an hour. Conversationally. 5 out of 5.
Now it's time for our AI news, which is the news that AI companies have lost in the attempt to dismiss parts of a copyright case being put against them by a bunch of visual artists. So a group of visual artists can continue to pursue their claims against the AI companies. I don't know whether this is going to be a good thing in the end or a bad thing in an end. These law cases can go on for years. Ria, you've seen something that's right and something that's wrong. Can you unpack this story for us?
Well, it's an interesting case. The idea that AI cannot survive in a vacuum. It needs other people's work. Especially these are AI programs that recreate art. So you can say, here's a picture of me, put me on the moon, make it in the style of Picasso, and then it'll go and it'll look at Picasso's work and then take the picture of me and put me in a Picasso moon. But the question is, does Picasso therefore is that an infringement of his copyright? Because I wouldn't be able to say in the style of if it wasn't for Picasso creating said style. And so the argument is whether AI is infringing copyright. That's one of the few things that this judge has allowed through to be discussed in court. And it's all over the internet. Everyone's discussing it. There's so many Reddit forums and discussions and threads where they're going through this. Generally, I think it's agreed that if only your art feeds the AI, then you can copyright the product, which is the other side of it is if I create something, if I create Ria on Picasso Moon, does Ria get the copyright for that? Because Ria created it, but Ria didn't really because it was off the back of many, many other giants. But then can any art be created in a vacuum without saying I first studied many other artists and they influenced what I now create? Oh no! Oh, and wormholes and wormholes, and it opens and opens and it never ends.
On the bright side, people who ask chatbots for links are often given links to Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up, because so much of the internet is just people answering genuine queries with links to Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You know how for a while people like our now King Charles were worried that nanobots were going to become self-replicating and turn the entirety of the rest of the world into nanobots? Is ultimately the entire internet going to become Never Gonna Give You Up?
I mean, is that the worst possible end to the internet that we can imagine? I think it's probably one of the better ends of the internet that I could imagine.
I love the idea that it ends there and that there is a humanity in a few hundred, if not 1,000 years that remembers the internet era. The way that there was a Bronze Age and an industrialization age, there will have been, do you remember, there was an internet age, but they will only speak of it through storytelling around fires because there's no other way to store data.
Yeah, we're going to have to draw the internet on cave walls just for people in a few thousand years' time.
For a couple of 1,000 years' time, where they can't go back and read the internet, how will they know who whom out of a shipment of copper? I feel like this is the real tragedy.
Oh, man. Will the Kardashians survive if the internet implodes? Like, will they be the ones that people speak of in 1,000 years? Like Beethoven, you're pretty sure Beethoven will be known about in another couple thousand years, but...
If people are still listening to music.
All they can listen to is "Never Gonna Give You Up"
See,
on loop. They
Beethoven's
gave
out.
up music. They gave up. They just went, if this, that's it. It's
Yeah, it's the Beethoven of 1988 now,
and coincidentally, the death of the earworm.
murdered violently.
And that brings us to extremely specific one person in the world, but interesting news now. And this is the news that a man with synesthesia that is triggered by orgasm sees the world in hues of pink when he comes, which I think is, I mean, as somebody who's writing a book about a comedy about romance, but not a rom-com. I'm writing a comedy book about romance. I feel like this is very relevant to my interests, which is probably why someone sent it to me. Helen Zaltzman, you've seen Shades of Pink before. Can you unpack this story for us?
Yeah, and I have synesthesia, but not orgasm triggered synesthesia. It's a 31-year-old man in Iran called Mr. R for the purposes of these reports. And he was referred to psychiatrists because he was saying that after climaxing, he had much higher contrast vision with pink everywhere. And lucky guy. I mean, imagine there's far worse colours to have. It seems very on theme. And it's also maybe triggered by pain, but this specific pain, perhaps for him. So yeah, I don't know why this is news, except I guess it's pleasant enough.
Because it's a little bit cheeky.
The reports say this is one of the most rare forms of synesthesia. And I have to question that, because is it rare, or do people just not think to mention to their doctor? I have a difficult enough time getting treated for ailments, let alone having the opportunity to chat about orgasms and colours.
Yeah, the person who invented the phrase "seeing fireworks" actually saw fireworks, but everyone else just took it as a metaphor.
And also, he wouldn't have been diagnosed until he was, on average 16, 17. He wouldn't have even known he had it, presumably. 13. He's a boy. 13, 14. Now I'm wondering. I didn't even think about this when I first read this story, but now I'm wondering, does it happen only when he's with someone or when he's by himself? But it wasn't his only form of... It turns out he's got another form. He had a form of synesthesia as a kid. Whenever he had heart palpitations or this heart pain, he'd see everything in white. So he obviously has some kind of tactile, whenever his nerve system gets overloaded, then his brain sees color. What's your form of synesthesia?
Mine is mostly each letter of the alphabet has a colour and some words and occasionally flavours. But it's mostly alphabet. And then whenever I read someone else's alphabet colours, I'm like, no way, wrong.
Wait, flavors have colors?
Yeah, some of them, not many though. Like salt and vinegar crisps are emerald green. But I don't have, some people have like a full spectrum of colours to taste and I don't. I just have that one.
Bear with my autism. I get the words, so you see words in certain colors, but is it when you eat the crisp?
Or if I think about it.
But what bit is green? Do you see the crisps as green? Do you see the word as green? Or when you eat it, does everything turn green?
No, it doesn't. It's more like the concept of green is hovering around in my subconscious, but it's not such a literal sight. But if I'm trying to remember something, then the colours come in. Like if I'm trying to remember words and letters, or if it kind of influences my feelings about them. Like the colours of my own name are not very pleasing. They're a bit school uniform. So that's a bit of a letdown for me. It makes me like my name less.
That's interesting. The letter R is purple to me.
That's nice.
It's always been
not
purple.
to me, but we've all got our own.
We all have our own thing.
colour
One of the
alphabet.
most rare forms of synesthesia is a man who also saw letters as colors, but was himself colorblind. So he didn't know how to describe what he was seeing because he couldn't see color. So he was never taught like, this is red, this is pink, this is green. So we called them Martian colors.
That is fantastic. Well, when I orgasm, I see a montage of like a train going into a tunnel and then like the top of a Coca-Cola bottle flying off and then someone like bringing up the Eiffel Tower. It's very specific.
You are the perfect person to write a comedy about romance. I think you are the middle of everyone's Venn diagrams. Zen and Venn diagrams.
The Zen diagram is where it doesn't matter how far the circles are away from each other. The circles are all one. And that brings us to our final story of this week's episode of The Gargle. This is the news that 36 flights were cancelled and 201 flights were delayed at a Japanese airport on the weekend after a pair of scissors went missing in a store near the boarding gates. Helen, you're a crafty person. Can you unpack this tale of woe?
Well, it caused massive disruption, and classically, the scissors were in the store where they left them. They were like, is someone taking the scissors to hold up a plane? No, they're just under a piece of paper or something. Like at home.
Also, I want to know how long the blade was. Like, I feel like they should have mentioned how long the bladed scissors were, because we've all, by now, had our nail scissors confiscated because they were 3 millimeters too long, according to whatever. I've had a knife from a travel cutlery set confiscated because it was half a centimeter too long, even though it was made of plastic. All of these things where you go, okay, we've all been through that trouble. So these scissors better have been like ceremonial cutting of ribbon scissors to cause this much havoc. Otherwise, I would have been really upset.
I'm picturing them as those kid scissors with the rounded ends made out of plastic that barely even cut paper.
Crimping sheer edge that don't even cut anything in a straight line.
Yeah, just kind of mash it.
The last time I went to Sydney, they confiscated a pair of tweezers that I had in my bag. And I got to Sydney and I got to my dad's place and I found in the bottom of the same bag a fruit knife.
Wow. Well, you know what really frustrates me is when you get things confiscated on your way back. So you've made it all the way through at least one airport to go on holiday or to go to work or to go to your destination, and then it's on the way back as you're leaving that place where you go, listen, I got in here, I was responsible, I did not use these scissors to hurt anybody, nor do I intend to. I'm going to go home to my country where I'm allowed to run around with all sorts of things once I'm through security. And they go, no, we can't trust you with this. And they take it off. You go, I can't believe it. I got this far in my journey and to just scuppered right at the last minute.
But they just don't know. They don't know if you've been on a tweezer stabbing rampage on your way to the airport. They can't trust you.
Well, then I wouldn't have made it through to their country if I had. That's the whole thing. It's like there should be some trust points. Like I should get a little sticker going, hey, A-star made it through an airport without causing trouble. And then on the way back, they could go, oh, that airport trusts you. Well, without a single rampage, okay? Without hormonal or otherwise, as they like to always identify a female rampage.
My biggest airport injustice is that they don't profile me when I have the baby strapped to my front. You have to unstrap the baby and put the baby sling through the scanning machine.
Not the baby though, just the sling.
Not the baby, just the thing,
okay.
And then you have to throw the baby through. No,
I mean this was a few years ago, but I remember I was traveling in the States, and this shows their dedication to supersized. I bought a drink, and this must have been before was this before the liquid ban? Anyway, I bought a massive drink and it had ice in it. And I was carrying the drink as I was going through security. So it must have been before the 100 milliliter liquid ban. So many, many years ago, I was a kid. I liked big sugary drinks. And I remember that they went, you can't bring the drink. They didn't want the drink to go through me in the x-ray machine. So they said, put it on the side. So I put it on the side. I went through. I was fine. They picked up the drink, they shook it, they heard the ice, and then they gave it back to me. And I went, that's how you smuggle stuff. You make it sound like ice. Because I could have had all sorts of, I could have had my lock picks, I could have had, I could have plastic wrapped a little battery in there. I could have put all sorts of things in that drink. Because they didn't open it up and it didn't go through the scanner. Of course, now you can't do that anymore. So that's why I tell that story.
Well, I mean, the part of you that stands near a high thing and goes jump, jump, is hoping that I will not remember this story when I go to Japan in October, because I'm going to be in Japan in October and I'll be in the airport and there'll be just the worst part of me will just be going like, why don't you go into the shop and just hide all the scissors?
Yeah, but in the same shop, just put, just one behind a book, one under a magazine, one in the chewing gum. You should take scissors with you and secrete them around the shop.
And leave extra.
Leave them everywhere.
And that brings us to the end of this week's episode of The Gargle. I'm flipping through the ads at the back. Ria, have you got anything to plug?
Yes, I am going to be doing, as part of the Unlimited Festival on the South Bank in London, I'm going to be doing a special performance of Abnormally Funny People. So if you want to celebrate everything, all the diversity that humanity has to offer, then come along to that on the South Bank. You can get tickets at the South Bank Centre.
Wonderful. And Helen, have you got anything to plug?
Yeah, I'm just about to start a tour of the UK with a new illusionist stage show about frenemies and words that get spam filtered out because they've got a swear in them, and a lot of very emotional stuff like that. And that's from 25th of August until 20th of September, and the dates are at theillusionist.org/events.
I've already bought my tickets to the one in London on the 7th of September.
No
So
refunds.
buy tickets to that and high five. I'll high five you when you're there. You get a bonus high five from me if you buy a ticket. If you are in Tokyo or in London, I have 2 writers' sort of masterclass afternoons. One is on the 8th of September in London and one is on the 12th of October in Tokyo. You can find both of them by going to patreon.com/Alice Fraser. You don't need to sign up to get access to the application forms. I just keep everything on patreon.com/Alice Fraser because that is my one-stop shop for all of my stand-up specials, podcasts and blogs, as well as my twice-weekly writers' meetings and my weekly salons. This is a Bugle podcast and Alice Fraser production. Your editor is Ped Hunter. Your executive producer is Chris Skinner. I'll talk to you again next week.
You can listen to other programmes from The Bugle, including The Bugle, Catharsis, Tiny Revolutions, Top Stories and The Gargle, wherever you find your podcasts.